TV with me, Isma. On Tuesday, the United States and China moved closer to a full-scale trade war, with US President Donald Trump imposing a massive 104% tariff on all Chinese imports. This move marks a significant escalation in the ongoing trade tensions between the two economic giants. What began as a trade dispute over unfair practices and intellectual property rights has now evolved into a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, with both countries refusing to back down. In response to Trump's sweeping tariff imposition, China has vowed to resist what it terms US aggression, setting the stage for a broader conflict that could have far-reaching economic consequences for both countries and the global economy. Here's a special report from Vows TV. The trade war between the US and China has been building for months. Initially, President Trump imposed a 34% additional tariff on Chinese goods, which was met with reciprocal 34% tariff by China on American products. In retaliation, the US government decided to further raise its tariffs, now imposing a massive 104% cumulative tariffs on Chinese products. This increase includes taxes that had already been levied in February and March, and the new tariffs are expected to significantly affect the flow of goods between the two nations. Trump's rationale for these tariffs is to address the trade imbalance and revitalize America's manufacturing sector. By making Chinese goods more expensive, the president hopes to incentivize American companies to relocate their production operations back to the United States. However, critics argue that this aggressive policy will lead to higher prices for consumers and disrupt global supply chains, with some economists expressing doubts about the feasibility of such a shift in production. Trump also claimed on Tuesday that the US is taking in almost $2 billion per day from these tariffs, presenting it as a major source of revenue for the government. However, the long-term impact of these tariffs remains uncertain, with many warning of inflationary pressures and possible economic slowdown. Beijing has also responded firmly to Washington's moves, labeling the US tariff as an act of blackmail. Premier Li Qiang, during a call with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, stressed that China is fully prepared to counteract any external economic challenges. He emphasized that the country's economic policies for 2025 have already taken in account various uncertainties, positioning China to maintain its economic growth despite the US tariffs. China's response is not just about safeguarding its own interests, but also about defending international trade principles. According to Li, the United States' actions are a manifestation of its unilateralism, protectionism, and economic coercion. He emphasized that protectionism leads nowhere and advocated for openness and cooperation as the ideal approach for global economic development. This stance underscores China's commitment to resisting US pressure and maintaining its economic trajectory despite the mounting external challenges. The trade war has already begun to shake global financial markets since the baseline 10% tariffs were introduced by Trump earlier this year. Stock markets around the world have experienced significant sell-offs, triggering fears of a potential global recession. With both the US and China imposing additional tariffs on each other's goods, the risk of further market instability and economic contraction is growing. The EU, already facing additional 20% levies due to the ongoing trade tension, has signaled that it will take retaliatory actions as well. The European Union is considering imposing tariffs of up to 25% on a wide array of American goods, including agricultural products such as soybeans and motorcycles, in response to the US tariffs on European steel and aluminium imports. In response to Trump's policies, Canada announced that it would impose tariffs on certain US auto imports starting Wednesday. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron called on Trump to reconsider his stance, stating that if the EU is forced to retaliate, so be it. The global nature of this trade conflict is becoming evident, with many countries being drawn into the dispute either as direct participants or as collateral damage from the escalating tariffs. Trump has expressed his intent to engage in tailored deals with specific trading partners, including Japan and South Korea, who are seen as more strategic allies. The White House also confirmed that nations like Argentina, Vietnam, and Israel have offered to reduce their tariffs in exchange for preferential treatment. This suggests that Trump's administration is looking for targeted solutions to mitigate the broader effects of the trade war, but his overall approach being confrontational with no signs of him backing down. The US China trade war has entered a critical phase with both nations deeply entrenched in a tariff battle that threatens global trade and economic stability. The US's 104% tariff on Chinese goods, met with China's resistance, could have wide ranging consequences for inflation, growth, and international trade. While the US may gain short term revenue, the long term cost, higher prices, and disrupted supply chains could outweigh the benefits. China remains firm in defending its interest. The situation is evolving, with other countries like the EU and Canada preparing responses, and the outcoming will shape future global economic relations. That's all for today. Thanks for watching Foresights TV with me, Asma.